Edom and Idumea are two related but distinct terms relating to a historically contiguous population, but two separate, if adjacent, territories occupied at different periods of the history by the Edomites, Idumeans. The Edomites first established a biblical kingdom in the southern area of modern Jordan, and later migrated into southern parts of the kingdom of Judah when Judah was first weakened, then destroyed by the Babylonians in the 6th century BC. Edom is a term used in written sources relating to the Late Bronze Age and to the entire Iron Age in the Levant, such as the Hebrew Bible, Egyptian and Mesopotamian records. In classical antiquity, the cognate name Idumea was used to refer to a smaller area in the same general region. Edom is the name of the country and a people located initially in Transjordan, between Ammon to the north, the Dead Sea and the Arabah to the west, and the Arabian Desert to the south and east. Edom is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, but also in a list of the Egyptian pharaoh Seti I from California, 1215 BC, and in the chronicle of a campaign by Ramses III. The Edomites, who have been identified archaeologically, were a Semitic people who probably arrived in the region around the 14th century BC. Archaeological investigation showed that the country flourished between the 13th and 8th centuries BC, and was destroyed after a period of decline in the 6th century BC by the Babylonians. After the loss of the kingdom, the Edomites were pushed westwards towards southern Judah by nomadic tribes coming from the east. Among these were the Nabateans, who first appear in the historical annals of the 4th century BC and already established their own kingdom in what used to be Edom by the first half of the 2nd century BC. More recent excavations show that the process of Edomite settlement in the southern parts of the kingdom of Judah and parts of the Negev desert down to Timnah had started already before the destruction of the kingdom by Nebuchadnezzar II in 587–86, both by peaceful penetration and by military means, taking advantage of the already weakened state of Judah. Once pushed out of the territory, the Edomites settled during the Persian period in an area comprising the southern hills of Judea down to the area north of Beer-sheva. Here the people appear under the Grecized form of their old name, as Idumeans or Idumeans, and the new territory is called Idumea or Idumea, a term used in New Testament times. Name of Edom in the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew word Edom means red, and is derived from the name of its original founder, whose name was Esau, the elder son of the Hebrew patriarch Isaac, because he was born red all over. Later, as a young adult, he ate red pottage. The Tanakh and the New Testament both describe the Edomites as descendants of Esau. Archaeology. The Edomites may have been connected with the Shasu and Shutok nomadic raiders mentioned in Egyptian sources. Indeed, a letter from an Egyptian scribe at a border fortress in the Wadi Tumalate during the reign of Merneptah reports movement of nomadic Shasu tribes of Edom to watering holes in Egyptian territory. The earliest Iron Age settlements, possibly copper mining camps, date to the 9th century BC. Settlement intensified by the late 8th century BC, and the main sites so far excavated have been dated between the 8th and 6th centuries BC. The last unambiguous reference to Edom is an Assyrian inscription of 667 BC. It has thus been unclear when, how and why Edom ceased to exist as a state, although many scholars point to scriptural references in the Bible, specifically the historical book of Obadiah, to explain this fact. This occurred after the Hebrew prophet Isaiah had earlier quoted Yahweh as pronouncing that Edom was marked for destruction. Another scriptural reference from Ezekiel chapter 35 foretells that Edom will be completely destroyed. Edom is mentioned in Assyrian cuneiform inscriptions in the form Udami or Udamu. Three of its kings are known from the same source: Osmalika at the time of Tiglath-Pileser III, Malik Ramu at the time of Sennacherib, and Osgabri at the time of Esarhaddon. According to the Egyptian inscriptions, the Aduma at times extended the possessions to the borders of Egypt. After the conquest of Judah by the Babylonians, Edomites settled in the region of Hebron. They prospered in this new country, called by the Greeks and Romans Idumea or Idume, for more than 4 centuries. Strabo, writing around the time of Christ, held that the Idumeans, whom he identified as of Nabatean origin, constituted the majority of the population of western Judea, where they commingled with the Judeans and adopted the customs. Edom in the Hebrew Bible. The Edomites' original country, according to the Hebrew Bible, stretched from the Sinai Peninsula as far as Kadesh Barnea. Southward it reached as far as Eilat, which was the seaport of Edom. On the north of Edom was the territory of Moab. The boundary between Moab and Edom was the Wadi Zerd. The ancient capital of Edom was Bozrah. According to Genesis, Esau's descendants settled in this land after displacing the Horites. It was also called the land of Sai. Mount Sai appears to have been strongly identified with them and may have been a cultic site. In the time of Amaziah, Selah was its principal stronghold. Eilat and Ezion-Geber its seaports. Genesis chapter 36 lists the kings of Edom. These are the kings who ruled in the land of Edom before a king ruled the children of Israel. And Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Jobab ben Zerah from Bozrah ruled in his place. And Jobab died, and Hashem of the land of Temani ruled in his place. And Hashem died, and Hadad ben Bedad, who struck Midian in the field of Moab, ruled in his place, and the name of his city was Avith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah ruled in his place. And Samlah died, and Saul of Rehoboth on the river ruled in his place. And Saul died, and Baal-Hanan ben Achbor ruled in his place. And Baal-Hanan ben Achbor died, and Hadar ruled in his place, and the name of his city was Pau. And his wife's name was Mehetabel bat Matred bat Mezahab. And these are the names of the clans of Esau by the families, by the places, by the names: Clan Timnah, Clan Alva, Clan Jeduth, Clan Aholibama, Clan Elah, Clan Penon, Clan Kenaz, Clan Taman, Clan Mibzar, Clan Magadiel, Clan Irim. The Hebrew word translated as leader of a clan is Elaph, used solely to describe the dukes of Edom and Moab in the first 5 books of Moses. However, beginning in the books of the later prophets, the word is used to describe Judean generals. For example, in the prophecies of Zechariah, twice it had evolved to describe Jewish captains. The word also is used multiple times as a general term for teacher or guide, for example in Psalm chapter 55 verse 13. Today it is used for a description of high rank in the Israeli Defense Force, and as a surname. However, the modern Hebrew word may come from the root elf rather than alph, as strong connects the Edomite root used in the 5 books of Moses. Aluf, as it is used to denote teacher guide from the Edomite word for duke, is used 69 times in the Tanakh. If the account may be taken at face value, the kingship of Edom was, at least in early times, not hereditary, perhaps elected. The first book of Chronicles mentions both a king and chieftains. Moses and the Israelite people twice appealed to the common ancestry and asked the king of Edom for passage through his land along the King's Highway on the way to Canaan, but the king refused permission. Accordingly, they detoured around the country because of his show of force, or because God ordered them to do so rather than wage war. 4. The king of Edom did not attack the Israelites, though he prepared to resist aggression. Nothing further is recorded of the Edomites in the Tanakh until their defeat by King Saul of Israel in the late 11th century BC. 40 years later, King David and his general Joab defeated the Edomites in the Valley of Salt. An Edomite prince named Hadad escaped and fled to Egypt, and after David's death returned and tried to start a rebellion, but failed and went to Syria. For that time Edom remained a vassal of Israel. David placed over the Edomites Israelite governors or prefects, and this form of government seems to have continued under Solomon. When Israel divided into two kingdoms, Edom became a dependency of the kingdom of Judah. In the time of Jehoshaphat, the Tanakh mentions a king of Edom, who was probably an Israelite appointed by the king of Judah. It also states that the inhabitants of Mount Sinai invaded Judea in conjunction with Ammon and Moab, and that the invaders turned against one another and were all destroyed. Edom revolted against Jehoram and elected a king of its own. Amaziah attacked and defeated the Edomites, seizing Selah, but the Israelites never subdued Edom completely. In the time of Nebuchadnezzar II, the Edomites helped plunder Jerusalem and slaughter the Judeans. For this reason the prophets denounced Edom violently. Although the Idumeans controlled the lands to the east and south of the Dead Sea, the peoples were held in contempt by the Israelites. Hence the book of Psalms says, "Moab is my washpot, over Edom will I cast out my shoe." According to the Torah, the congregation could not receive descendants of a marriage between an Israelite and an Edomite until the 4th generation. This law was a subject of controversy between Shimon ben Yochai, who said it applied only to male descendants, and other Tannaim, who said female descendants were also excluded for 4 generations. For these, some early conversion laws in Halachah were derived. Classical Idumea. During the revolt of the Maccabees against the Seleucid kingdom, 2 Maccabees refers to a Seleucid general named Gorgias as governor of Idumea. Whether he was a Greek or a Hellenized Edomite is unknown. Some scholars maintain that the reference to Idumea in that passage is an error altogether. Judas Maccabeus conquered the territory for a time around 163 BC. They were again subdued by John Hyrcanus, who forcibly converted them, among others, to Judaism and incorporated them into the Jewish nation, despite the opposition of the Pharisees. Antipater the Idumean, the progenitor of the Herodian dynasty, along with Judean progenitors that ruled Judea after the Roman conquest, was of mixed Edomite-Judean origin. Under Herod the Great, the Idumea province was ruled for him by a series of governors, among whom were his brother Joseph and Antipater, and his brother-in-law Costobris. The evangelist Mark includes Idumea, along with Judea, Jerusalem, Tyre, Sidon and lands east of the Jordan as the communities from which the disciples of Jesus were drawn. According to Josephus, during the siege of Jerusalem by Titus, 20,000 Idumeans, under the leadership of John, Simeon, Phinehas, and Jacob, helped the Zealots fight for independence from Rome, who were besieged in the temple. See Zealot Temple Siege for more information. After the Jewish wars, the Idumean people are no longer mentioned in history, though the geographical region of Idumea is still referred to at the time of Jerome. Religion. The nature of Edomite religion before the conversion to Judaism is largely unknown. Epigraphical evidence suggests that the national god of Edom was Q-Ayuz, since Q-Ayuz is invoked in the blessing formula in letters and appear in personal names found in ancient Edom. As close relatives of other Levantine Semites, they may have worshipped such gods as El, Baal, Q-Ayuz and Asherah. The oldest biblical traditions place Yahweh as the deity of southern Edom, and may have originated in Edom, Sinai, before being adopted in Israel and Judah. In Antiquities of the Jews, Book 15, Chapter 7, Section 9, Josephus notes that Costobris, appointed by Herod to be governor of Idumean Gaza, was descended from the priests of the Kosa, whom the Idumeans had formerly served as a god. For an archaeological text that may well be Edomite, reflecting on the language, literature, and religion of Edom, see Victor Sasson. An Edomite Joban text, with a biblical Joban parallel, Zeitschrift für die Alttestamentliche Wissenschaft 117, 601–615. Economy. The kingdom of Edom drew much of its livelihood from the caravan trade between Egypt, the Levant, Mesopotamia, and southern Arabia. Along the incense route, astride the King's Highway, the Edomites were one of several states in the region for whom trade was vital due to the scarcity of arable land. It is also said that sea routes traded as far away as India, with ships leaving from the port of Eziongeber. Edom's location on the southern highlands left it with only a small strip of land that received sufficient rain for farming. Edom probably exported salt and balsam from the Dead Sea region. Khirbet en Nafas is a large-scale copper mining site excavated by archaeologist Thomas Levy in what is now southern Jordan. The scale of 10th-century mining on the site is regarded as evidence of a strong, centralized 10th-century BC Edomite kingdom.